In the past few years, I really felt like I needed a change work-wise. And last December, I finally made the decision to do something about it. I wrote down a list of different jobs I would love to try, and one of them was making video games. About 5 years ago, I tried learning for around 3 weeks. I had a bit of time and was curious about how video games were made. It was so fascinating that even back then I was already tempted to quit my job and do only that. Just for some quick background, I've been a freelance web developer for over 20 years, graphic designer for over 25 years, did some 3D illustration for a few years as well, and basically spent loads of time on a computer since a very young age. And I'm also a musician as a hobby, which can definitely come handy when making video games. In early January of this year, I was finally free of all my commitments as a web developer and decided it was time to initiate the change. Making video games for sure requires a lot of time, and I didn't want to do anything else on the side. It was either I was going to do only this, or I would do something completely different. So, to be 100% sure that I really wanted to make this career change, I decided to give myself a month or two to learn and see how I felt about it, before going all in and redirecting all my energy into making video games. The first step, even before learning, was to compare different game engines, to weigh the pros and cons of each and decide which one to learn. After watching a bunch of YouTube videos about the different engines available, Unity felt like the best choice for the kinds of games I wanted to create. I then booked this crazy 170 hours long course on Udemy to learn Unity. It covers everything from the very beginning, like discovering the interface and installing the right tools to write C#, to making several games and even publishing them. I really wanted to learn from scratch, the right way, without skipping steps and ending up lost, or doing things I didn't understand. Throughout the course, I did all sorts of things, adding a trail of light to a moving sword, manipulating cameras, using Unity's third-person character controller and replacing the default robot with a different character from a different asset. I learned about post-processing and how to affect only certain areas of the map, like when you enter a cave in a game and everything becomes darker, for instance. I played a bit with different assets just to get used to the software. The course then explored Unity's built-in tools for creating trees and terrains. Just to keep exploring Unity, I added the default robot character controller on the map, along with other assets I found online, and it was amazing to just walk around this little world I had created. Then the course went into small exercises to write some C# in the context of Unity, like spawning cubes randomly and things like that. At some point, I was curious to create a little script by myself, so voila, this was my first own script, animating a power-up item on a map. Wow, crazy, I know. Anyway, the course continued with repulsing enemies around the player, then creating a basic first-person shooter kind of thing, which I messed around with and ended up creating this weird-ass sort of stinky fart magic wand or something. And then I made things a bit more serious, modeled a gun, added the ability to throw grenades to static enemies, very fun. Next was a pirate boat game where the player can shoot left or right, with an enemy boat to destroy, and switching to another scene at the end where the player can walk around an island to explore it. It was super cool as well to build all of that step by step. The next chapter was about Unity's built-in AI system to define where non-player characters can walk or not, make them follow the player, give them a field of vision to detect the player unless they're behind a wall, etc. That was very inspiring actually. I should perhaps mention that throughout the tutorials, I always try to experiment. I will use different assets than what the instructor suggested, or go further after the tutorial was over to implement more things to it. If the course showed how to create one tree, I will create 2 more by myself just to really make sure I integrated well what I was learning. The course was very complete, even including a few hours of introduction to Blender, which is very useful when making games. I mean, I suppose even if someone else does the modeling for you, it's a huge plus to be able to make basic models to make your own prototypes without relying on someone else, right? On Blender, we learned how to create simple low-poly rocks, crates, turrets, and more for the next chapter, building a full tower defense game. It was really complete with a menu, different levels, settings, different turrets and enemies, a money system, and all of that. At some point though, the course became very complicated because the instructor used design patterns for almost all the code. In short, design patterns are ways to organize your code to create a more robust architecture for larger projects and team collaboration. These are very difficult concepts to grasp when you've only been learning a programming language for 3 weeks. When I tried a bit of Unity 5 years ago, I also made a tower defense game following a YouTube tutorial, and it was a lot easier. Because I'm a nerd, I kept the code I wrote back then, and when I had a look at it again after this recent tutorial, the code of the tutorial I've done years ago was actually much simpler to understand and, in my opinion, better organized. In other words, the Udemy course felt like total over-engineering for such small games, and that was honestly very discouraging. Since I started to learn, the one question that kept coming back to my mind was how to create a player character in a game. Not the 3D model, but how to animate it and make it playable with a keyboard or controller. Since I was a bit discouraged by the Udemy course, I decided to pause it for a while and follow a YouTube tutorial to learn this specifically. Honestly, it felt quite overwhelming as well. The code was very complicated and it left me speechless, like I will never be able to do that by myself. It's a strange feeling to be proficient in 5 programming languages and to feel like a complete beginner again with C#. And at the same time, I had the same experience before when I started learning PHP, JavaScript, and the other languages. It felt like a lot, and I thought the people who were very good at it to the point of being able to help others on forums, etc., were crazy demigods or something. But then I became one of them, just by practicing, making more and more websites, mistakes as well, by writing more and more code, and I will get there too with Unity and C#. So I try to be kind to myself and keep in mind that it's just a matter of time, and that learning takes time. At this point, I also realized that following tutorials has limitations. The problem is that I was repeating every click and writing every line of code from the instructors. But in a way, it felt like repeating pre-made sentences in a foreign language. I didn't really speak it. Imagine knowing that ni hao ma means how are you in Mandarin, but being clueless on what part of it is the verb, how conjugation works, where the pronouns is. I'm maybe exaggerating a little here, but you get the idea. I didn't feel like I truly understood everything I was doing or why. Anyway, I felt like the right thing to do at this point was to get more familiar with Unity and C# by myself before going back to the Udemy course. To practice, I told myself I would try to implement very basic video game interactions, like opening doors, collecting objects, etc. Not a full game, but just simple interactions to try, fail, get frustrated, and learn. And that actually turned out to be so exciting that I kept going, adding more interactions like switching the lights on and off, reading notes, triggering sounds when the player walks in certain areas, and so on. This video is already long, so I won't show you that just yet, but I can already tell you that my next devlog video will be about, well, you guessed it, my very first video game. And I honestly never thought I would say this so early after just 1 month of learning. I mean, how crazy is that to already be creating a full game? I'm amazed and so excited to show it to you soon because, believe it or not, it's even looking absurdly gorgeous. Well, the truth is, because I just couldn't wait, I posted about the game on my website and all my social media accounts. So you can go and check that out. All the links are in the description of this video, and I will keep posting more screenshots and videos on those in the next weeks. Until then, as every person on YouTube seems to be repeating all the time, please subscribe, like my video, share it with your grandma or something, comment, and visit my website henano.com to find out more and get all the links to my social media accounts as well. See you guys in the next video and have a great day.